catching up the Amudim from Shabbos and Maseches Shabbos and Sunday for the 14th and 15th days of the month of Chodesh Teves, and we are covering all of Daf Pei Hey with Amud Aleph and Amud Beis in this shir. We are at the bottom of Pei Daled Amud Beis. We are 6 lines up from the bottom of the Amud, relating to a discussion that we had mentioned on Pei Daled Amud Beis, where the Gemara is going to now discuss a machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish with regards to the Isur of Shviras Etzem. Says the Gemara as follows, middle of the line, Itmar. It was stated as follows: Eiver she'ein alav kazayis basa b'makom zeh v'yesh alav kazayis basa b'makom acher. With regards to a limb of a piece of the Korban Pesach that has meat on one part of the limb and doesn't have meat on the other part of the limb. That is the case. Says Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Yesh bo mishum shviras etzem, there is still an issur of shviras etzem, even if there is no meat at that point of the bone. Rabbi Shimon Lakish disagrees. He says, no, ein bo mishum shviras etzem, Rabbi Yochanan says, Yesh bo mishum shviras etzem, there is an issur of breaking the bone. Rabbi Shimon Lakish says, ein bo mishum shviras etzem, there is no issur of breaking the bone. Okay. And now Rabbi Yochanan is going to try to argue against Rish Lakish. 85a Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. He disagrees. He says, why the pasuk tells us Pesachim lo yishbru bay. Pasuk says you're not allowed to break a bone in it. Echad, and according to the Brisa, echad etzem sheyesh alav kazayis basar. This applies to a bone that has a kazayis basar. Ve'echad etzem she'ein alav kazayis basar. And that's true also of a bone that doesn't have a kazayis basar. My ein alav kazayis basar. What do you mean? If it doesn't have a kazayis basar, it would still have an issur of breaking it. Ilem, if you want to say the ein alav kazayis basar klal, that it doesn't have any meat on it at all. Amai yesh bo mishum shviras etzem. Why would there ever be an issur of shviras etzem? Elalav hachikam. Rather, the Brisa must be telling us as follows: Echad etzem sheyesh alav kazayis basar b'makom zeh, ve'echad she'ein alav kazayis basar b'makom zeh, ve'yesh alav kazayis basar b'makom acher. It must be that what the pasuk is now teaching us is that we are talking about a bone that has meat in one place, it doesn't have meat in another place, and that is the bone that doesn't have meat, because I have meat on it, that there is still an issur of breaking it. And that is the kasha against Rish Lakish. Says the Gemara, last word on the line, last word on the Amud, on Pei Daled Amud Beis, Amalei, he says in Rish Lakish, back to Rabbi Yochanan, turning on to Pei Hey Amud Aleph. Not true. This is what the pasuk in the Maseches are talking about. Echad etzem sheyesh alav kazayis basar b'chutz, ve'echad etzem she'ein alav kazayis basar b'chutz. We are talking about a bone that has no meat on the outside versus, and in addition to a bone that has no meat on the outside, but does have meat on the inside. B'makom shivira, meaning, says the Gemara, echad etzem sheyesh alav kazayis basar b'chutz, this meat in the bone. Ve'echad etzem she'ein alav kazayis basar b'chutz, it doesn't have any meat in the bone. V'yesh kazayis basar b'makom shivira, but it does have meat, meaning inside the marrow of that bone, b'makom shivira, at the place that you broke it. And on that says Rish Lakish, that's where the issur is. But if there would be a bone that has meat on one side of it and no meat and no marrow on the other side of it, there would be no issur of breaking it over there. That Tanya, Rashi tells us that this Tanya is binichusa, meaning as we have taught, not and have not we not taught. It's not asking kasha. It is a support of Rish Lakish, and this is. This Brisa is going to now roll through two possibilities of the Isser of Shviras Etzem. Says the Brisa as follows: "For etzem lo yishbru bay, don't break any bones in it. Echad etzem sheyesh bay mayach, that is true of a bone that has marrow. Ve'echad etzem she'ein bay mayach, and that's also true of a bone that does not have any marrow. Umani mekayim, and what would I say about the pasuk v'achlu es habasar b'layla hazeh?" That you have to eat the meat of the korban on this night. That's the obligation of eating korban Pesach. Bebasar sha'al gabe ha'etzem. We're talking about the meat on the bone. Maybe it means that you also are obligated to eat the meat that is within the bone. You are obligated to eat the marrow. That is also going to be chayv for you to eat. And then what do you do with the pasuk that says va'etzem l'shishbur bay? There's no way of getting to the marrow without breaking the bone. Be'etzem she'ein by mayach. That makes sense. Be'etzem she'ein by mayach. There's no marrow. Then you would not be able to break that bone. But maybe with a bone that has marrow inside of it, maybe the obligation would be to in fact break that bone and to eat it. Says the Raisa, don't be astounded by this. Comes along the mitzvah's essay and overrules the mitzvah's loisase. There is a mitzvah of eating the meat, including the marrow. And there is a loisase not to break the bone. The loisase is going to be overruled by the essay, and you should break the bone and eat the marrow. Says the Brisa, why do we not say that? When the pasuk repeats this din by Pesach Sheni, don't break any bones in it, meaning even in the Korban Pesach Sheni, but Pesach Sheni in Sefer Bamidbar, she'ein Talmud loymar, don't come and tell me she'ari kvar nemar, I know this din, kechol chukas haPesach ya'asosai. Because the Torah tells me that it has to be done according to all of the halachas of Pesach. I mean, there'd be no need to repeat any of these halachas. Now, the repetition of this din is to tell you that there is a unique din that you would not have thought of otherwise. You would have applied the principle of Esed Loisase, comes along the Torah to repeat the halacha of Etzem Lo Yishbur Bay, don't break any bones, to tell you that that Isser is not going to be overridden by the obligation of eating the meat that is within the bone. Meaning that there is still an isser of breaking a bone that has marrow in it. And therefore, says Reish Lakish, my understanding of the isser that the Brisa has mentioned, that that you are not allowed to break a bone, even if there's no meat on it, must be because there's meat inside of it, not because there is a kazayas meat on one side and on the other side. Okay. Meisive. And now there is another objection raised against Reish Lakish. If you have a limb that a little bit of it stuck out, meaning it's a psul yitzia. What do? You cut the flesh away from the bone until you get to the bone. And then you peel the meat back until you get to the joint, and then you cut the bone off, meaning at the point of the joint. And if you want to say, and if you want to tell me, Reish Lakish, that if there is meat in one part of the bone and there's no meat in another part of the bone, there is no isur of shiras etzem of breaking the bone. Why do you have to peel the meat back until you get to the joint? Just cut the bone. You can cut the meaning and then cut it niklef bei purta, to peel back a little bit, and then just chop the bone because there's no meat, meaning there's no meat that you can eat. Says the Gemara, two responses to rescue Reish Lakish. Abaye says mishum pekah. No, you can't do that because maybe when you break the bone, you're going to accidentally break it. Breaking bones is not like a perfect science, right? Yeah, it's not exactly perfect that you're going to be able to break the bone in a place that you're going to perfectly cleave it so that you're not going to end up breaking a bone that had any meat that you could have eaten on it, and then you'd be then you would be over on the esem lo yishbur or sishbur bay. Ravina says no, but kulis, we are referring to the thigh bone. Which has marrow inside of it, and therefore that's the bone that this Bryce is talking about. And if the thigh bone sticks out, so then you have marrow that's running all the way up and down, and there is meat that is still inside of it, and therefore breaking it would still be violating, meaning scraping the flesh, and then breaking it would not help you there at all because there is still marrow there. It would only, meaning even for Reish Lakish, there'd be no heter of breaking that bone. There is meat inside of it that you cannot access, but there would still be an isur of etzem lo yishbur bay. Tanan hasam. We have another brayso that teaches like this, meaning within the same discussion, but moving on. We have not disproved either Reish Lakish or Rabbi Yochanan. Tanan hasam. We have learnt elsewhere. Hapigul v'anoser the atame, included or not, mitaben say that Obviously, that l'chara would include tameh as well. But pigul, a korban that the guy that brought it was thinking of eating mechutz l'zman and mechutz l'mkama, and nosar, flesh of the korban that was left until the next morning. Metame seidayim, they are going to be metame the hands. This is a din midrabanan, that the rabbanan instituted a din that pigul and nosar are going to be metame your hands. Rav Huna v'Rav Chista. Rav Huna and Rav Chista had a discussion about this. What's the rationale behind it? Chad amr b'nei chashtei kahuna v'chad amr b'nei atzlei kahuna. One said that this is about the reason that they instituted this is because of chashdei kahuna. With the chashdei kahuna, so Rashi points out, this is the explanation of both Rashi and Tosfos, that the chashdei kahuna are kohanim that have a bone to pick with you. We're talking about both, right? They have a bone to pick with you, the guy bringing the korban, and they don't want you to get kapara. So they're gonna intentionally mess up your korban. Now, to be metameh, be a daim, or whatever the case is, that would be a problem, right? You would notice that. But their intention can mess up your korban. This would be a very, very mean kind. And then you'd have to then go and bring another korban. I mean, they'll tell you afterwards, by the way, I had the wrong thought. I thought that I was going to bring I was going to eat it. Yeah, you're not yotzi. You have to now go and bring another korban. They're messing you up intentionally. So the Chacham came along and they said, oh, by the way, pigul is going to be metameh seyadayim. And Rashi points out that chashudim lepagul korban mishum is mishum eva. We are concerned that maybe they're going to puzzle your korban because they don't like you. What's going to happen is that it means that now he has to go to the mikveh and he has to wash his hands, and this is going to be a schlep for him. Meaning, don't think that you can just get away with this and go tell him, oh yeah, I made a mistake. Now you have to go out and you have to be metam, and more than that, there is a pagam in a kohen that became tamei, and this is what the Tosfos says: "Lam lecha shechamura alehem taharas kelim yosef mishvichas damim." This is the Gemara in Yomi that by certain kohanim, certainly by the end of Bayesheni, tumah was more sensitive to them. They were more nervous about tumah than they were about murder. These are concepts that we are not familiar with today, the chashivus of tumah and tara, but there were kohanim in the days of Bayesheni that was so concerned about tumah and tara, even more so than about other Jews. V'chad amar mipnei atzlei kahuna. That what do we consider about atzlei kahuna? Lazy kohanim that too lazy to take care of making sure that they designed their diet appropriately and they knew exactly what needed to be eaten, when, and how. Says the Gemara, Mar matnei apigul. The one that said one of them, meaning chashtikuna, was said about pigul. Mar matnei anosar. Another one said that this is about nosar mishum atzlikuna. Man demasna pigul mishum chashtikuna. Man demanei anosar mishum atzlikuna. Meaning the both of them taught about the halacha. One taught about one din, another one taught about the other din. Okay, mar matnei. One of them taught kazayis umar matnei kibetza. One of them said that that the tumas yadayim was the size of an olive, and one said it's the size of an egg. Man demasna kazayis, the one that said that it's the size of an olive, is ki isura. That's with regards to the isur. How much do you need to eat of something in order to violate it? Man demasna kibetza, and the one that says kibetza kidumaso is the amount that could become tameh. Ibai, they asked the following question: Yotze, with regards to a korban that leaves its space, right? It's not supposed to go out either of Yerushalayim or out of the Beis Hamikdash, out of the Azara. Yotze, with regards to a Yotze, Gazru Rabbanen Tumah Oilai. Is there a gzera of Tumah with regards to the Psul Yotze? Says the Gemara, I'm reading nicer. The Gazru Tumah, the Asu Le'i Atzulei Bei, Aval Yotze, Afukibi Adaim Loi Mafkele. Do we say that with regards to Nosar, they were concerned about Tumah because, meaning they instituted Tumah, Mishum Da'at Sulebe, because what the Karim are going to be lazy. Aval Yotze, with regards to Yotze, they would certainly not have carried it out themselves, meaning there's no concern. What would have been the concern? That they would have accidentally or on purpose, there would be a reason for them to have carried it outside of the Mekom. It doesn't make any sense. Or maybe, no, with regards to so all the psulim, they made all the psulim as a low plug, as a standard halacha, not to differentiate that all psulim are going to be b'tam yadayim. Now we're trying to prove whether or not there is a tumah of psul yotzei. Tashma, come along and hear. You have a limb that a little bit of it has left. This is the previous discussion that we had, trying to prove the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. A limb that has left its space, you cut until you cut the meat until you get to the bone. We cut about you make it a parak, and then you peel it back until you get to the joint. And that's where you cut it. And if you want to say, goes to be Rabban that the Rabban made a tumah about this. What would it do if you cut it? Surely it is already going to be. It's already going to be tamei. Meaning, we're going to say if a little bit of the leg of the korban went out of Yerushalayim, so that part became tamei because it has the psul of yotzei, and anything that leaves now is going to be tamei. What's going to be tamei? Not just that piece; the whole thing becomes tamei. Tamei, if something touches, right? You touch something that now your finger touches something. Your hands are tamei. The whole of the whole korban is tamei, right? It's tamei. It's going to be tamei yadayim. The whole korban is going to be tamei yadayim. Says the Gemara, no, this is tumah starim. This is hidden tumah. What is hidden tumah? Hidden tumah is if I have two things that are touching each other, one of them becomes tamei. Does the other thing become tamei? No, because the tumah there, though these things are touching, this didn't touch. This one did, and therefore the tumah only goes to the end of this, but doesn't transfer over. That's called tumah starim. Tumah starim is the tumah is in between two objects. Tumah starim like metame. Tumah starim is not going to be metame. Meaning that what do we say? We say that the tumah of that this leg has now contracted tumah. It's not going to travel through the whole thing because that tumah is going to stop. Ravina says Ravina the Amar, according to Ravina, it says Chabura Oichlin Lav Chiburu, that we don't view foods as being connected, that there's tumah starim. V'kan de mefarte dami, and it says if they are already separated, my iklamim, what are you going to say? Ha kanaga behadadi. These two parts are touching each other, and it's not tumah starim. It's not tumah starim. We look at it as if this part touched that part. It's not that they are fused together, and therefore two separate things that are fused together, and therefore there's tumah starim. The tumah is only b'seiser. What do we say? We say that this is actively touching it, because what are you going to do? You're going to ultimately cut this up, and you're going to eat the meat. So since it's about to be cut up anyway, we view it as this piece of meat is touching this piece of meat, and then kamatame. What are you going to say for Ravina? According to Ravina, it would seem to be that this Mishnah is telling me is telling me that if Tumas Yotzei would exist, then the whole thing should be tamei. Ella lemanda tani kazayis. Rather, you have to say that according to the one that says that there's that it's a kazayis of basa that becomes tamei. Delays be kazayis. That according to Ravina, he would have to say that the meat that went out doesn't have a kazayis. According, if you want to say that it's a kibetza, that the amount of meat that went out is not a kibetza, and therefore the tumah wouldn't be contracted by it, even though it has a psul of yotzei. It doesn't have the tumah of yotzei. Tashma. Now let's see another potential support or disproof. If you take the meat of the Pesach from one group to another, even though you have violated an isur deraisa, you have violated an isur of taking from the meat from one chabura to a chabura, tahar, it is still pure. Seems to be the dead giveaway that there's no tumas yotzei. My love, tahar v'asr. Do you say that this is tahar, but it is still asr for you to eat it? Do you because you took it from one group to another group? It's as if you took it outside of its boundaries, meaning you took it from one group and you took it to another group, even without leaving the space. It's as if you left the space because you took it from one group to another. Oh, mifsal, and it is puzzle. And even though it is puzzle, it's still tahar. Alma, it seems to be lagas rabbanan tuma that the rabbanan didn't institute tuma about this. It says the word lie. No, maybe you can read it completely differently. Tahar or mutter, it's tahar, and it is still mutter. Whoa, meaning it's tahar because it is still mutter. You can still eat it. Taking from one chabura to another chabura doesn't puzzle it at all. It's not like you took it outside of its boundaries, not like you took it outside of Yerushalayim. It's not puzzle. Didn't we say at the end that if you ate it, you are violated the loy ta'aseh? So we said that makes sense if you want to say that it's a kibetza, right? Meaning, if the whole psul is, you can't say in such a situation that there wasn't a kazais, because if you're eating it, there must have been a kazais. So because kibetza, it makes good sense if you want to say that the psul would only be if you took a kibetza over. That's where there would be tumah on it. The isbe kazais, because you ate a kazais, you can still eat a kazais. There's no you can fulfill the mitzvah of Pesach for this. The leis like kibetza without making a tam with a kibetza. But according to the one that says that it must be that the tumah exists on a kazais, what are you going to say in such a case? Says the Gemara, no. Even if yotze would be a psul by all other karbanos, yotze, the rabbanon would not make a gzeira of yotze of a carbon that goes outside of its boundaries, that it becomes tummy b'Pesach on Pesach. We don't need it. Why? The goes rabbanon tumah, because the rabbanon would never have made tumah about carbon Pesach. My time, why would the rabbanon never have made tumah with regards to yotze of carbon Pesach? B'nei chabur is reason him, because there'd be no need to. Remember, we're trying to do this to ensure that nobody violates halachas, that the kohanim don't do nasty things and that don't do lazy things. Yeah, b'nei chabur is reason him. Everybody wants to make sure that the carbon Pesach is going to be tahar. This is in your best interest. Why would the chachamim have to come along and make a gzera about this? And therefore they are going to be exceedingly careful about it. Rather, if you have a question, what is the question? We have to coach him with regards to kachim that go outside of their boundaries. What are you going to say in such a situation? Says the Gemara, we don't know. We don't know the answer to that. We don't have a proof in either direction whether the chachamim made such a din or not. Okay, continuing with the next din, 3 words from the bottom of Pei Hey Amud Aleph, says the Gemara, Umoitzi Basa Pesach, person that takes their meat of their Pesach outside, from one chabura to another chabura. That's the case that we were talking about. Minayin. How do you know that there's such a thing as asr? How do you know it's asr at all? The Tanya, we have a brayso that says, according to the pasuk, soisi min habayis min habasar chutza. Don't take it outside of the house from the meat, chutza, outside. Ainli elami bayis lebayis mechabur lechabur minayin. I only know the din of don't take it from one house to another house. What happens if you have a big hall, big dining room in a Pesach hotel in Yerushalayim in the days of the Beis HaMikdash, and you have Chabura A, Chabura B, Chabura C, and they're all in the big dining room together, and they make a big circle, and this one is eating his korban, and this one is eating his korban, and you want to go have a shmooze about something going on in your seder, their seder, so you get up, you have some of your korban Pesach with you, walk over to that Chabura, that would be a psul of yotze. How do you know such a din? Talmud Loimar says the pasuk chutza. You didn't need the word chutza in the pasuk. It says lo says min habayis min habasar chutza, outside. What is it? Chutz la'achilasa, outside of the place that it's supposed to be eaten. Rabbi Ami says, Rabbi Ami, hamotzivas pesach bechabur lechabur. If you take your pesach from one piece of pesach from one chabura to another chabura, ena chayv ad sheyaniach. You're only going to be chayv once you put it down. Once you put it down, that's when you're going to be chayv. Why? Because the pasuk calls us hotzah, carrying out. Hotzah ksiv be keshabbos. Because we're going to apply the same halachas of hotzah of Pesach to the same halachas of hotzah b'Shabbos. Ma Shabbos adda of in order to violate carrying from one rishus to another rishus. with regards to Shabbos, you have to have akira, you have to have uprooting, lifting it up in the place that it was, and hanacha, putting it down in another place. Hachanami, ad the abed akira hanacha. So to here, you have to have both akira and hanacha. You have to have lifting up and putting down. Massive Rabbi Abraham says, hold on a second. How you sovereign isim b'mosais? We have a brayso that tells us that if you were carrying them out on sticks, harishonim yatsu chutz lechamas ha'azara, va'achorim lo yatsu. Rishonim metamin begadim, va'achorim lo metamin begadim. If you have a group of people that are schlepping a korban outside of the azara, and improperly they shouldn't have, and as soon as they leave, the Rishonim, the ones that are ahead of the pack, they're carrying it on sticks, and the ones that are ahead of the pack, they become tamei immediately as they walk up. But the ones at the back haven't become tamei yet. But they haven't stopped, they haven't rested, they haven't put it down yet. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Abraham asked the question and he answers the question. So I'll tell you exactly what's going on there. In such a case, that's b'nigrarim, when they're dragging it, where every step is both akira and hanacha, because they're dragging it. It's not that they're carrying on their shoulders, they're carrying on a stick, but they're schlepping it along the ground. Okay, next Mishnah. Says the Mishnah as follows. In this Mishnah, we've seen quoted like 3 or 4 times in the last couple of Amud. If you have a limb of a Pesach that a little bit sticks out of its mechitza, you cut the meat until you get to the bone, and you peel back the meat until you get to the joint, and that's where you are going to cut it. And with regards to other karbanos, not korban Pesach, you can cut it with a cleaver, with a meat cleaver, right? Big knife, because there is no violation of shiras etzem, there's no isur of cutting a bone of any other korban. Now we're going to talk about where exactly is the boundaries of being inside versus outside. Mina agafalifnim, from the stup, the doorstep, and inside, kilifnim, that's considered to be inside. Mina agafalachutz, from the doorstep and out, kilachutz, that is considered outside. Hachalonis, windows, va'oveachama, and the width of the wall, kilifnim, that is considered to be inside. So if you have a thick wall, the walls of Yerushalayim, thick wall, the spaces in the windows, and the thickness of the wall, that is all considered to be inside. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, v'chein letfila, the same halacha applies with regards to tefillah. What halacha applies with regards to tefillah? So, not any of the beginning cases of the Mishnah about peeling back the flesh and cutting the bone. We've discussed this Mishnah, all of those halachas, we've discussed this already. What we haven't discussed yet about this Mishnah is the last din of the Mishnah, which is mina agaf livnim kilivnim dam, from the doorstep and inside. That's called inside. That din, says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, exists as well with regards to tefillah, with regards to making a minyan. Meaning, in order to have a minyan, so you need to have 10 Jewish men over the age of 13. All in one place. What's considered to be 10 men in one place? What happens if you have somebody standing in the doorway? Says the Gemara that Rabbi Yehuda Amarav says the same din applies with regards to tefillah, that if somebody is standing in the doorway, that is kilifnim, as if they are inside. And if they are outside of the doorstep, then they are not considered to be part of the minyan. This is a direct disagreement with Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Why? The Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, even a wall made of steel, even the iron curtain, right? Doesn't stop between the Jews and our Father in heaven, meaning that as long as you can hear each other and you're clearly part of the same space, there is nothing that's going to stop you. You don't need to be physically in exactly the same location. It's not a question of technical yotze or not. It's just a question of whether or not you are joined together for davening, not with regards to your placement. There we go. That's better. Says the Gemara, Ha Gufakasha. This is the Mishnah is internally inconsistent. Why? Because what about the doorstep itself, the stup? What are you going to do about that? Amart, you said minagaf lifnim kilifnim. You said that the doorstep and inside is called inside. Hagaf atzmai. But what about it? Kalachutz that would seem to be that it's on the outside. But the in the Mishnah says min agaf lachutz, from the doorstop and outside kelachutz. Kelachutz is like outside. Hagaf atzma klifnim. It sounds like the doorstop itself is inside. Meaning, what is it? Is it inside? Is it outside? It says the Gemara like hasha. No problem. There's two separate cases here. There's a difference between the walls of the Beis Hamikdash, the gates of the Beis Hamikdash, and the gates of Yerushalayim. The Amar Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak says Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yitzchak, why didn't they sanctify the gates of Yerushalayim? Because those that are struck with leprosy, right, tzaras, so where would they be able to sit? They aren't allowed in the city, so where would they want to sit? That area under the gates of Yerushalayim. So that space under the gates of Yerushalayim, they would the Mitzrayim would be able to be sheltered underneath that, because they're not allowed into the city. If you said that they had kedusha of Yerushalayim, then they would not be allowed to be in that space of the gates. So, but that gates, the gates are there to make sure that the Mitzrayim had a place that they'd be able to take shelter. B'chama, from the sun. In the sun from the sun, and in the rain from the rain. Meaning they need a place. You need to make sure that there's shelters even for people that are not allowed in the city. V'amar Rabbi Shmuel Bar Rabbi Yitzchak says, Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yitzchak, why were they not Mekadesh the gates of Nikanar, the gates that went into the Beis Hamikdash, into the Azar of the Beis Hamikdash? So also for the Mitzrayim, but a very different din. Because the Mitzrayim need to stand there, and they put the thumbs of their hands into the Azar. Meaning, in order for the Mitzrayim to become tahar, he needs to, at the end of the process of tahara, he needs to come to the Beis Hamikdash and he has to bring his asham and his chatas and his ayla, and the kohen then needs to, and that will enable him to complete his process of tahara, and then he'll be able to come into the azar of the Beis Hamikdash. Here's the problem: is that the korban has to be brought in the azar of the Beis Hamikdash, has to be brought to the mizbech. He's not allowed in, but in order to achieve kapara, he needs the kohen to put blood onto his thumbs. Right? He needs to be able to put his thumbs, the thumbs of his hands, the thumbs of his toes, right? His toes. He needs to be able to be mitahar them. And in order to be able to do that, the kohen needs to be able to put the blood from the korban, and he's not allowed in. So what do? So you have him standing there right by the edge. And because of that, they were not Mekadesh, the Shara Nikanar, with Kedushas Azara, so that he'd be able to stand in the Sha'ar and be able to then be able to have the blood put onto his thumbs. There's a big tumult in the Achronim exactly where and what, but that is, says the Gemara, that is the difference between Hagaf and Levim with regards to the Azara versus the gates of Yerushalayim. And Be'ezhem Mizrach, we will continue with Hachalonis Va'ovi Achayma at the bottom of Peheh Abu Beis. We will continue with that Be'ezhem Mizrach in tomorrow's shir. Everybody, please God, should have a beautiful week, and we will see you then.